Breaking name change confirmed. We sort out the differences in the IPA family, and why are these beers so unclear? I'm Nikoli Williams, and this is Don't Worry, Beer Happy. Till the end of Haze. So I'm here tonight with a very, very good friend of mine, a fellow beer lover, Gabe Hoffman. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah,
How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. You know, it's a bit colder here now than it has been recently. It's in the 30s, whereas it was 50s, 60s not a week ago, I feel like. So
Yeah, did you get snow today? I know that a bunch of places out that way got snow.
I haven't seen any, but maybe somewhere in the area. So,
Cool. Cool.
so tonight, I don't know. I guess you were kind of the um, idea for this one. Your love for hazy beers is the reason why we're doing this one. So tonight we have two very very good beers, at least according to ratings. We have. I'm assuming they're also good by our taste as well. But we have Lagunitas Hazy Wonder.
I'm repping my Lagunitas shirt today. One of my two, but this is the, catch-all one because it's just the dog.
Right, the dog is one of the best logos that there is out there. I mean, it's most recognizable to me. I mean, I have a glass right with the dog also. So
Love it. We're matching dog boys.
yeah, I mean, look, I might get a painting one day with the Lagunitas dog. I mean, it's just a cool logo. But
Maybe even a tattoo.
I will not get a tattoo.
You might.
I will not.
Yeah, never say never. We'll leave the door open.
So the second beer that we're trying is not just a hazy IPA. It's a hazy Imperial IPA. And so it's Fantastic Haze by Sierra Nevada. I've never had either of these, so I know you have. You had both?
Yes, I have had both, and honestly, I think it's really exciting that you haven't had either, because it's like you're going in kind of blind. I've had both. I really like both of them. Also, obviously, we, you know, try to get beers that we can get in both places, so both have pretty big distribution. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean sometimes it's kind of hard with people across the country. I don't think anyone who's been on the show has been within a 5 6 hour drive, maybe is the closest. So
Yeah,
it can
it's
be a bit tough.
a national show. I do want to flag something we've got in the chat already, which is that you should get a tattoo if this video gets X number of viewers. What's your number? Name your number.
I look. It would be look. We're not going to achieve it. My number would be way too high. I
Is
mean,
it like you in odds? Like you're just gonna say 1 in 10 billion? You're just
eh,
gonna say
well, it
if you
wouldn't
get
be
10
10 billion.
billion views?
I just wouldn't get a tattoo. I mean, if I were to get a tattoo, I would probably say it'd have to hit at least 1 million, but it's not gonna hit 1 million at least for a very long time. But I'm not gonna
I
get a
mean,
tattoo.
a million is way more. That's low. I thought knowing your odds pattern, it was gonna be like 4 trillion.
I mean, there aren't that many people on the earth, so I mean, that's kind of
Yeah, but people can watch it multiple times.
I suppose that's true.
Also, to get views, all you need is like a server room of computers, looping it over and over.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know that that counts because eventually doesn't it start to know this IP address has watched the video this many times? It's probably a bot.
I don't know. That's a good question.
I
But
mean,
so a million's the number,
if I were to get a tattoo, but I'm not gonna get a tattoo, so it's
but it would be a million.
yeah. Like if I were into tattoos, then I would be like, oh yeah, if he gets 1 million, I'll get a tattoo of the
You
dog.
heard it here first. BN's gonna get a tattoo after it's a million.
Oh, okay. You can say that. It does not make it true.
Yeah. Well,
You want to go ahead and pour this first beer?
yeah. So we're starting with log, right?
Yes.
What better place to start than with log? I got a matching can if it can get out of the. Do you like my hazy background? By the way, some people call it blurry. I call it hazy.
It is a
There you
hazy.
go.
It is a hazy background. Yeah. I mean. All right, we're gonna pour. I mean, it doesn't really matter if you show it to the camera. I mean, we've shown it in the past. I will show it to the camera how I pour.
think I'll go with my first glass for this one. We're doing a simultaneous pour. It's pretty good. Oh,
There we have it. Lagunitas.
look at that. This is a pretty good head. It's pretty perfect size head, I'd say.
I mean, to me, I don't know if you put your hand behind it, it might focus better.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
But yeah, I mean, it looks pretty good. Mine's kind of small. I mean, it's already falling a lot too, but you know, it is what it is. We don't shame here, and don't worry, beer happy. So
Can I give a shout out to where my glass is from?
sure.
Beguile Brewery in Chicago. Great brewery tour. We love it. Cheers.
I've never been there or had any of their beer. I don't think so.
Well, it's great. And on the tour costs $10. You get 3 giant, like 12-ounce tasters and a free glass.
Hmm. That's
It's
pretty
pretty
good. That's
Yeah,
kind.
I
That's
know.
that's kind of like where was it? It was like the third oldest brewery in Maine. It was $8 for a tasting glass and 6 tasters.
Yeah, that is very similar. I just think it's so cool because like they give you the glass and then they just fill it up 3 times basically on the
Hmm.
tour, which is so fun. But I remember on the Beguile one they had these giant tanks and they literally just like tap it from there.
Right.
Super fun.
Oh, yeah, maybe if I visit Chicago anytime soon, I'll. What kind of aroma do you get just off the top?
I mean, definitely hops. That's
I mean, honestly, to me, like it doesn't smell all that bitter. And what did I say the IBU? So uh, the IBUs aren't all that high. I mean, considering it's an IPA, it's very fruity. I mean,
super fruity, definitely on the nose for sure.
like when I smell it, I kind of understand why the category used to be or is, you know, and it's described as juicy a lot of times because the
For sure.
hops do give off a very fruity flavor. You know, they can be all different fruits. I mean, also your yeast can attribute some fruit to it as well. But I mean, this is probably the epitome of juicy, fruity, hazy IPAs.
It is because even as I keep going kind of on the nose, you even get a little bit of like straight up sugar in there, like just
Hmm.
some like pure sweetness at the back end.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times, and you know, I talked about this a couple weeks ago when I was talking with Daniel, that you have a lot of the underlying like grain flavor sometimes, and if you took a cracker and just left it in your mouth, eventually it would start to kind of taste a little bit sweet. So,
Totally,
is,
totally.
see, is it a more fruit smelling or hop smelling, and is that different than non hazies? Do you think? Well,
I think it's more hop smelling personally.
like to me, when I think of hops, I mean, I think the question there is kind of weird because hop smelling is fruity, right? Because you can use hops for aroma, flavor, bitterness, and all of that kind of stuff. So when you say is it hop smelling, it's like yeah, it smells like fruitiness from the hops, but to me it doesn't smell bitter. You know, it's not like one of those things where I'm like, oh, this smells like it's gonna wreck your palate or something.
Agreed, agreed. I guess the reason why I'm saying it smells like hops is because I've had some beers with you, especially, just when we've been together that like, do you remember that gummy bear beer that we had at Alpha Acid? It
Uh,
was it was literally like made to taste like gummy bears,
was
and
it like reddish colored or no?
I think it was pink. Yeah,
Pink.
I think it was
Okay.
pink. Yeah. Um, I just feel like in comparison to a beer like that that almost doesn't even smell like beer, then this still smells like beer. Like it's a
Yeah, that's
fruity
true.
smelling beer,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
like that's one of the hops that I get.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely a difference between like that kind of stuff and fruited sours and things that actually have real fruit in them. You know, you can kind of smell that a little bit
Sure.
differently. But this is you can definitely smell the beer itself on this. So yeah, I mean, I agree there. But I've never had it. I'm gonna go ahead and try it. I'm gonna see what I think.
First sip.
Honestly, it's very light. Like when I think of an IPA, I think of it being a little bit heavier on the palate and kind of being a little bitter. I mean, I know we have 25 IBUs. I mean, the SRM obviously is very light, straw colored almost. You know, you can almost see through it. Uh, Maybe the camera can't, but I can. You know, like when I look through here, I can see my screens.
See the
So,
rest of the show through the beer.
uh, if I had something to hang it up or stand it on, you know, I would just put it right there. But yeah, honestly, it is very, very light. Like when I drink this, I'm like, that's it, almost. You know, it just feels like it's almost watery.
It's I know. So that's and maybe my previous exposure to the beer is like gave away my assessment of the smell, but like it actually I think smells fruitier than it tastes.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like I don't think it's that fruity. It's not that bitter either, but
I think that's true. And well, when you talk about hops, depending on when they are put in the boil, will determine what characteristics from the hops that it gets. And I think this, I don't know if this is dry hopped. I'm assuming it is. I feel like most hazies are.
yeah, I think it's
Um,
definitely dry hopped
and I
cuz
think you get a lot of aroma stuff from that because the oils kind of are washed off of the hops and into the beer, but that's it. So you don't get a lot of the other stuff. I think if you wanted more of the flavor and bitterness, you'd put them in the boil earlier. That would kind of add it. But if you know because it's dry hopped, I think that's why you don't get as heavy of a hop flavor.
I think you're right because also if you read the can, it specifically like was supposed to be light and bright. Um like in fact, what I was going to say not what I was going to say, but Log has a wet hopped beer
Mhm.
called Phase Change that was a one hitter and they did it 2 years in a row and it was phenomenal and it didn't come back this year. Hopefully it will in the future, but it was like I obviously don't know as much about the brewing process as you do, but like it was apparently like a miracle that they were able to use wet hopped hops or like wet hop the beer at a certain time of year or something. They were like it was the first time it had ever been done that someone had wet hopped at this time of year with this kind of hop or something, and it's so juicy and
Mhm.
fruity even though I don't even think it's technically um a hazy IPA like in terms of style.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, well, you know, that would be something good eventually to do. I know we've thrown it around some, but on like a Lagunitas based episode to just talk about all their beers. I think there's a lot of cool stories. I mean, we went to their brewery in
I've been
California.
to both.
Yeah, so yeah. So they have one in their second one's in is it LA? Is that where it is?
So their second one's in Chicago,
Well, yeah, yeah.
and
Well, I was discounting that one, but don't they have two in California or no?
they've been working on building one in LA that is going to be the size of the Petaluma one and the Chicago one put together. But it hasn't opened yet. But I've been to the Petaluma one with you and then the
Hmm.
Chicago one a few times.
Yeah.
Both really cool.
Yeah, well, I remember when we went to the Petaluma one. I mean, just some of the stories about the owner and all that I thought were pretty cool. I mean, I think it'd be a good thing to save some of these stories. I think it'd be a cool episode
Great.
to talk about all of those and to have a few more people who like to experience Lagunitas with us.
Yeah, I know. One of my favorite stories ever occurred with Mr. Cohen, so I don't want to spoil that until he's on and we can tell it together because I
Okay.
think that'd be fun.
Yes. So, I mean, rest assured that we will tell all these stories, but it's going to be a cliffhanger today. Yeah, I'm thinking
um,
about kind of where I would rate this. And I think it's really good, but I don't know that it has a like overwhelming like oh this is amazing. Like it's something that I would buy again, I would drink, but I don't think it's one of those that I'm going to place up there like almost near the top of my IPA scale, you know.
it's an interesting one because and this maybe gets into some of my questions about like what makes a hazy, but I'm almost like this just seems like because I know it says on the bottom unfiltered ale,
Mhm.
and this gets into my questions about like is a hazy IPA just an unfiltered IPA, or are there other requirements to it? And if so, like, is this just a like light IPA that happens to be unfiltered and that's why it's hazy?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I did pull up all of the American IPA guidelines. So I have the American IPA, the American Hazy, the American Imperial IPA, and the American Hazy Imperial because those are all four things from the Brewers Association. First, I want to mention that the name of this category used to be identified as the New England IPA. And so if you heard any IPA or New England IPA, that's because that's what the style was named. It has recently been changed to Hazy IPA because it's kind of grown past where it originated. Now
It's ubiquitous. I feel like it's one of the most popular styles for like micro and nano breweries to make. Like one of the first things is like they know it'll sell.
well, I mean that's IPAs in general, right? But I think
Totally.
the New England or hazy style gives it a little bit more approachability to people who don't like the bitterness. A
Yep.
lot of people are like, I don't like IPAs because they're too bitter. I think this style gives you a very easy drink. Like it's fruity for the most part, or it's very light feeling, and like you see, 6%. I mean, that's not bad. I mean, that's barely more than your normal lagers. I mean, the 25 IBUs, which international bittering units, not very bitter on the scale. I mean, there are IPAs that are 100 plus, 120, 150, whatever. And then the SRM, I know we had a question. SRM is a standard reference method. And so that is from 1 to 40. It's a scale of the color. And it goes from like a very pale straw, light yellow to like a very dark brown, black kind of color that you'd get with your stouts and stuff like that. And it filters from the yellow to the orangey reddish and then to like the brownish black. And that's the kind of thing. It's 1 to 40. So.
Does it take into account opacity also? Because I mean, just since we're on the topic of hazies, like
Right. Yeah, I don't think the standard reference method does. Now, I know when they're brewing it. So haze itself just refers to how clear this thing is. And actually, this is very clear. Like, there's not a lot of this particulate matter in here. It's just kind of it's translucent, right? Um, but yeah, there are a couple types of hazy. One is from being chilled. So if you bring a beer down to 32 degrees Fahrenheit or 0 Celsius, you're going to develop usually some sort of haze in it, but it'll go away once it gets warmer, like up to 68 degrees or so.
oh, interesting.
So that's one type of haze that you can find. The other one is a non-chilled haze, and there are many different factors. It could be either biological or non-biological. So if it's non-biological, it could be anything from starch to dead bacteria, dead yeast. It can be a lot of different stuff. And I think the biological one is what gives this one and other hazies generally their look because it's dry hopped and all that. I mean, there's a bunch of different stuff that goes into the haziness. They have there's like haze meters, I think, that look at how light passes through the beer at certain angles. Technically, it's supposed to be at right angles, but if you do it at right angles, then you can have beer that's not supposed to be hazy or is not considered hazy being hazy on the meter. So a lot of them
Sure.
use these things with. I don't know if you like kind of tune them differently or they're just different devices completely, but the angle that it measures is different than a 90-degree angle. So it's a narrower angle so that it doesn't register as hazy whenever they don't want to do. So it's kind of cheating the system, I guess. But it doesn't change anything, especially in this case. The haziness doesn't change the flavor. You could have stuff suspended in the beer that could change it. You could have yeast suspended in here if it's bottle conditioned, and that can change the flavor based on what the yeast does from the time it's bottled to how long it takes for you to drink it. If you store it correctly, if you don't. But the haze that comes from all the stuff in the hazy IPAs doesn't affect the flavor.
So then, well, I have a couple questions, but I'll start with this one. If the haze doesn't affect the flavor, then how does like the category of hazy IPAs have a distinct flavor as a category from normal typical IPAs or other subcategories of IPAs?
Okay, so here's what I want to read exactly what the category. So I'm going to read a normal American IPA, American Hazy, American Imperial IPA, and then an American Hazy Imperial. So the American style India Pale Ale, it's pale to copper. Clarity is chill haze is acceptable at low temperatures. Hop haze is allowable at any temperature, right? So it seems that for an IPA, you can have haze and it's fine, right? It's not gonna hurt you on the beer judging, and it's legally allowed to be called an American IPA, even if it is hazy. Whereas the juicy or hazy IPA, so it looks like the color's straw to a light amber, so it's going to be a little bit darker generally, but then the clarity is low to very high cloudiness. Starch, yeast, hop, proteins, and other compounds contribute to the range of hazy appearances within the category. So it seems, I don't know, maybe I don't know what the actual industry does to determine it, but it seems to me, just reading it, that you could put it in either category, right? Because this isn't that hazy, and even if it was, you know, it doesn't seem like there's any prohibition to it just being called an IPA without the hazy. You see,
So,
you see
sorry, go ahead.
like low fruit esters to high fruit esters in all IPAs. I mean, I feel like IPA is a category that's just expanded beyond belief recently, and you just have so many variations, and it's hard to categorize IPAs in general, just because there's just so much you can do, whether it's
Totally.
with the hops or the yeast or whatever else. So
So you mentioned something about like dry hopping and dry hop particles or whatever. I know we had this question in chat too, but I'm also curious. What is the difference between dry hopping and wet hopping?
well, normally like dry hopping is done like after the wort is being made, and like you take it out and then you put the hops in afterwards, and then wet hopping, like I'm pretty sure wet hopping is normal, like that's just what you would think of as whenever you put hops into the boil.
Are the hops fresh or are they dried?
Well, so you can actually do either. I know that you can get like a hop extract that you can put in. um, Whenever I've done homebrewing stuff, it's been hop extract. I mean, they're not dried as in you don't take a hop and then dry it somehow and then put it in, but you can get the extract from the hop, or you can just put in the literal hop.
Right.
I don't know
Okay.
what's cheaper. I mean, I'm assuming the extract is cheaper and easier just because it's not a full-on plant and you don't have to ship the whole thing and all that. But
But
yeah,
also usually extracts are not like they should be used carefully. Like just in other cooking, some extracts can be very like artificial tasting or
right, yeah, and I think whenever you're at the brewery level, their scientific stuff is so tuned in, right? Like they can account for the fact that there's too much calcium in their water, or they can account for there's too much whatever other mineral in their water. They can account for the fact that they need to make it taste like this or that. They can measure things exactly. I mean, obviously, you can measure things exactly too if you need like a certain amount of fruit, or you need a certain amount of rice, or whatever you're using as some of your grains to get the sugars out. But um, yeah, I think they can do it pretty easily, and I don't know if the breweries that we're accustomed to use extracts or they use real hops. I mean, I'm assuming a lot of them use real hops just because that's
I'd hope.
that's what you'd expect. But
I mean, it's like, at the end of the day, beer is essentially tea. It's like leaf water. So it's not that expensive to make. So I feel like
I mean, it depends on what's in it, because
fair.
if you just have your water, your normal hops, you have some malts, it could be cheap. But if you have some expensive additives that you're adding, maybe you have some fruit, a lot of, or you need some special process on the malls. You maybe need to toast them all, or maybe you need smoky flavors. Like there's a lot of stuff that you could have on your beer that's going to make it cost a whole lot more.
Sure, but then they usually mark up the price in the stores and stuff. I'm just saying, like I would hope they're using real hops because real
Well,
hops are like part of the essential beer process.
right, I mean, I would hope that they are. That's actually something that I'm curious about now. Just thinking about the brewers who I've talked to. I remember going on a number of tours in Maine, and I mean, I never asked any of them like, oh, well, do you actually use hop extracts? Do you use real hops? So I mean, that's kind of an interesting question I haven't really
Yeah, I
thought
mean,
about
if
in
they're
the
following
past.
Reinheitsgebot, then they have to be using real hops there. But also, then they're not putting in all that other stuff.
I mean, do they have to use real hops? Because I mean, extract is the real hops. It's just the
I
extract.
guess.
I mean,
I guess. But also, who cares about Reinheitsgebot? Um, uh, I have a question for you.
yep.
It's just like a fun question that I was curious about. I know when you're asked what your favorite beers are, you always like to just say whatever next beer because you like trying new beers. And you feel free to go on Untapped and look at your top rated. But like, can you think of any specific hazy IPAs that you've had that like really stick out as some of the best you've had?
Uh, I mean, I had a lot in Maine. I don't know of any names in particular, but yeah, let me go on there and look.
Totally. I'll do the same thing at the same time, though I have one in mind already.
And while I'm looking on Untapped, yeah, so we had a question. So yeah, wet hopping is when you add the hops during any point in the boil. And dry hopping is going to be once it's after, maybe it's during fermentation or whatever. But that's the general difference.
Oh. Oh. Oh, I'm going back through my Untapped and seeing all of these amazing Okay.
So are we including just hazy IPAs or like imperials or pale ales or just
I included on my filtering just now, I said haha filtering, no pun intended. I included IPA New England slash hazy and double New England hazy because uh our next beer is technically a double New England IPA slash imperial.
right? So obviously my well, the one that comes up top is Lagunitas, the Waldo Special Ale. Um, although I don't know why that's coming up because I don't think that's the right thing.
Yeah, it's not coming up on my end.
Well, let me deselect everything again, and then let me try this.
Oh, thanks, chat. As a rule of thumb, hops added earlier in the brewing process add bitterness, hops added later infuse the beer with more hoppy aromatics. That's cool.
That's what I said.
That's No, I know, but that was just something chat said from the Allagash website.
Yeah.
A nice pithy way of saying it.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I was talking about. Whenever I'm saying it smells very fruity, and it's probably because when they add in the hops later in, it doesn't get all the stuff that you would get if you put it in the boil. Okay, so it looks like my highest rated hazy or imperial hazy is by Good Fire Brewing Company,
Mm-hmm.
which is in Portland, Maine, and it's something called Prime. Um,
What'd you give it? What was that high rating?
I gave it a 4.8.
Wow. Wow. Well, um,
I don't know if we can see this,
oh, I can
but
see that. That is hazy for sure. We love Corey Tap Room also
yeah.
on this show.
Look, that's one of my favorite places in Maine. I mean,
No question.
they have a lot of beer there, but yeah, Good Fire Brewing Prime 4.8. That's my highest.
So, up high for me, I've got two other log beers, Lil Something Hazy and Hazy Memory, which are both
Mhm.
phenomenal. Um, we were gonna do Hazy Memory, but we couldn't find it. But it's good. We can save it for a log day. We can save it for a log day when hopefully it'll come back for me at least.
I actually have So I have that on my list too. Hazy memory. I give it a 4.5.
Yeah, it's really good. When I think of the best like juicy IPAs that I've ever had, I think most often of a beer called Son of Juice from Maplewood Brewing Company, which is in Chicago.
Never
It's
heard of it.
I've been to Maplewood. It's really cool. They have like board games. It's a classic brewery. Breweries love board games. And on draft it's great, but also it only comes in 4 packs of Tall Boys, and it is phenomenal. It is like the most like juicy and fruity. My last check-in of it, which was a 5, my comment was, "Is this the best beer ever?"
I mean, that's high praise. I don't know what to say. That's I've had some good fruity stuff. I mean, let me see if I've had any comments on my other top ones. So, okay, another one that I had, I said it was for Halloween in Hollowell. Super delicious, called Prototype 8 by Foundation Brewing. This is a good looking beer.
That is a really good looking beer. See, I don't take pictures of mine. I wish I had now because I could contribute to the conversation that
Right.
way.
Well, I mean, that's one reason why I like taking pictures, because then I can always go back and look and be like, oh, yeah, that looked good, or, see the characteristics about it. I don't take pictures of every beer I have, but, I mean, I've probably taken 600 to 700 pictures, at least.
That's a lot. That's about as many unique as I have. The other the other hazy that I wanted to flag as one that I love, and I did look forward to see if we could get today, but it's not in Nashville, is a beer called Foggy Geezer from War Pigs. And
Mhm.
funny enough, War Pigs is a Danish brewery from Copenhagen. Like it is a Copenhagen brewery, but they have like one other location, and it happens to be in San Diego.
Mm.
And they had some like for some reason it was distributed in Chicago because I could find it at the grocery store all the time in Chicago, and I can get it here because it's in San Diego. It is so good. It's so good.
I mean, you'll have to get
Yeah.
some, and let me try it one day. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
One
Highly
that
recommend.
one that I saw on my list that I gave a 4.5. I don't know if you remember this name, or maybe it's on your list too. I don't think you rated it as highly as me.
Is it from Alpha Acid?
It is from Alpha Acid. It's called Clouds, bro.
Oh, okay, so it's not Thirst Trap because Thirst Trap from them is one of my lowest rated hazy IPAs.
Let
But
me let
this
me
one's
see
called
where that is. Yeah, Thirst Trap I gave a 4.
Wow. That's like one of the few that I've given lower than you because I famously rate much higher than
Well,
the
you
other
also
guys.
you also gave Clouds Bro lower than me. I gave that a 4.5. You gave it a 4.25.
I did. You're right. That's a
I'm
double also. That's a 8.8. What did I say about it? Fresh, refreshing, full IPA. Really smooth for a DEPA. Fruity but not tart. Super good. Why'd I give it a 4.25?
I don't know. I mean, maybe you
Do
didn't
you want
have
to guess what my lowest rated hazy IPAs are, knowing my rating scale and that it's my favorite style?
like what the lowest number is.
Yeah, what the lowest number is.
I'm gonna go 3.5. Was it 3.75?
3.75. Yeah. It's like probably one of your highest.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so on my beer rating scale, a 3.6 to 3.61 is the average. So
Mine is like a 402 or something.
mhm.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I've had a lot of good beer. I've had a lot of bad beer. My lowest rated hazy is looks like Creature Feature One by Good Robot Brewing Company, which is from
oh,
Halifax, Nova
okay.
Scotia.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, it's a gluten reduced take on a biotransformation method of dry hopping. They used Amarillo, Citra, Cascade hops, and um, they hit it with a lot of mango, peaches, pineapples, and lemon peel. I
What'd you
I,
give it?
I gave it a 3.25.
Oh, that's not even that bad. I know that's
Yeah,
under average, but like, you didn't
yeah.
drag it that
One
much.
that's on my list, but I don't know why, because it's an English IPA. I gave it a 3, but that's the lowest that I have on this list. But I didn't think I hit English IPA on my thing.
Mm. Um, Chat wants to know what's the weirdest flavor we'd had slash seen in a hazy, like any specific fruit. I have a couple just from the list. Um, they're not that weird. I mean, I've had a bunch of mango ones. I've had passion fruit ones. The maybe the one of the weirder ones is uh from Burnt City Brewing, which is a Chicago brewery. They have a bowling alley too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a sour passion fruit hazy Deepa, and I know, right? It's like a sour and a Deepa and hazy, and my note was that it was really good, but it was almost completely a sour, which I like sour, so that's fine.
Right.
But I think that was one of the more interesting ones that I've had.
I honestly don't. I'd have to go in and look at all the descriptions of these things, because like I'm looking here, and this one says it's super citrusy. It's named Pulp Daddy, but I didn't know what that meant until I went and looked at it, and it's a very citrusy aroma, and it says it tastes like nectar of the hop gods, right? But it doesn't tell me what fruits are there. I mean, so I don't know. Like, I honestly can't answer the question just because I don't know.
You gotta
And
love the people whose job it is to name or to write descriptions, because brewery people are a
man,
certain type.
let me tell you, I have been to breweries that just opened, okay, and they don't have descriptions on Untapped or on their menu of these things, and so I've had to write descriptions of some of these things. For example, New Brewery in it might be like New Gloucester, Maine, or something like that. But anyway, like when I went there, they had just opened. It was their opening day or the day after their opening day, something like that. But they didn't have anything on Untapped. They didn't have any descriptions, and I had to write. I hate having to create the Untapped for stuff because it's like you have to put some. I don't want to do it like a crappy job, right? Because people can check it in after that, and so it's like I want to make sure it's good.
That's I totally get that. I definitely have checked something in before that does not have anything, but I'm too lazy to put it in. So I commend you for like being the Wikipedia editor on Untapped.
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to do it.
Yeah.
I don't like to have to. I'd rather the brewery put it in because then I can find it easily. Like some things are very hard to find. I mean, I had a case whenever, like over summer, Robbie, who was on last time, and Dennis, who hopefully will be on soon. We were
Shout
having
out to Dennis.
we were having beers, and we got it from this place over in East Nashville or something, and we are like, "What is this?" And we tried to find it on Untapped. We could sort of find it, couldn't really find it. We thought it was this thing. Was it? Who knows? I hate that because then it's
Yeah.
like, was this the real beer or not?
Right. And you like obviously want to check in the right one. I totally get that. Um I also have I just keep kind of scrolling. I've had two different gummy bear IPAs from two different breweries, and also a pineapple one.
Okay.
So there's some other interesting fruits.
I had a blueberry, so I've had this is
Blueberry.
called Blueberry Yum from Tangled Roots Brewing, which is in Ottawa, Illinois, actually.
You love
Uh,
tangled roots.
it says it's a blueberry scones inspired New England IPA, a collaboration with our friends at the Ottawa Bakery, brewed with Bravo, Comet, and New Zealand Racow hops to accentuate the blueberry flavors. Hints of toasted pastry bread from a selection of Munich white wheat and Pilsner malts. I gave that one a 4.5.
Hmm. Wow. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of different fruits that you can have, and that's what, like I said, I think is one of the good things about this style is that it kind of hits the people who don't like the hoppy stuff. They do like maybe more fruity beers or fruited sour beers, um, or maybe you like kind of sweeter stuff. I mean, the fruit gives it a little bit of that character, I think, and it allows for people who don't want the triple IPA bitterness, or even just an IPA bitterness. I mean, some IPAs can get pretty bitter. I don't know. It opens up the category for him, I think.
Um that I think makes a lot of sense. to kind of piggyback on that point, I just remembered a beer that I kind of wanted to share that I think is interesting, just about the whole hazy and fruit conversation.
Hmm.
It was another log beer, sorry. It was a one hitter a few years ago. It hasn't come back. But it was called Citrus Inensis, and it was an unfiltered pale ale that was like orange, basically citrus, and it was the chunkiest beer I've ever had. I actually did take a picture of it. Okay, I'm gonna. How do I get this off? All
Uh,
right. Um, did it go? Did it turn off?
well, your camera? No, your camera's still on.
No, no. I mean, oh, here we go.
There you
The
go.
blur is what I was trying to turn off. Okay.
Oh,
It literally had like pulp floating in it.
yeah.
And
I
it
mean,
was orange pulp, and it was a pale, not an IPA, but it's like why aren't there hazy pale ale like categories? Why is it only IPAs that can be hazy, even though
there is a
other
hazy pale
styles
ale.
can be hazy?
There's a hazy pale ale, I think.
Oh, okay. So that was just me being dumb.
I mean, I just don't think people call anything like a hazy pale ale. That's not a category I think that's used in the marketing a lot. I think the only reason hazy is because it's kind of a cool thing, you know. And if it's not a hazy IPA, you're just like, oh, this is a hazy pale ale. I don't know. I'm looking at chat here. So if I were to brew a hazy, what fruit slash flavor combo would I go for? I don't know. I think probably something kind of tropical. Maybe
Yeah.
like some mango, maybe some pineapple, something like that. I feel like citrus is done. I feel like there are less more tropical flavored ones. And there's a lot of beer that tastes like citrusy fruits, and there are less that taste like stuff. I don't know. I mean, I think they'd all be good.
Yeah, I love what's it called? Passion fruit. That's like my favorite fruit flavor.
Hmm.
Passion would be great. I also think like a berry one could be cool, like a raspberry hazy.
I
Like
was
I know
just,
and you're getting into like fruited beers and stuff because obviously it would be like pink or purple,
yeah, I
But
was actually thinking. Let me see if I can find it on Untapped real quick because I don't want to say this incorrectly, but I want to say it was like an elderberry thing that I had. I did not like it. I'm just
you
gonna
didn't
be
like it.
honest. I did not like it.
That's okay. You don't have to like
Um,
everything.
yeah, so I gave it a two.
Oh, you really didn't
Uh,
like it.
yeah, well, it was a kombucha though. Actually, even though it was at a beer fest. Um,
Have I ever given anything a two? I have. I've given one beer ever a two. Let's see it. Guess what it is?
I mean, if it's not like Bud Light, then I have no idea.
It's PBR, so you were close.
Okay,
And I've given one beer a 175.
was that Bush Light?
No, it's a real beer that I hated. Oh, is this the one? This might be. This
I
was a beer we had at beer school that was was a stout that was barrel aged in rum barrels, and it was so bad. It was so bad.
what did I give
It
it?
literally my thing is my comment says smells like straight up rubbing alcohol. It's like bourbon and beer makes sense. It's like, okay, bourbon at some point in the process was beer. We get it. They're related. But rum, tequila, when you're barrel aging in things that make no sense, it, I think that it doesn't work more often than it does.
Yeah, does it say what I gave it, or did I not have that?
Don't think you were there. However,
Oh.
our mutual friend Robert, Robert Brockman, let me pull it up again. Sorry. He did rate it. He gave it way better than I did. He gave it a 375. I gave it a
Wow.
175. He says a stout without tasting super roasty. I like that. Aftertaste is a little too much like rum. Nose hits hard, which at least that agrees with what I said. Profile of beer itself is solid. No. Reject.
Like when I think about barrel aged stuff, there's a place in Maine called Barreled Souls. and they have a lot of cool beers, including one of my favorites, which is not like a hazy or fruity kind of IPA, but it is a fruity beer called Superman Punch. It's amazing. But then they also do have a lot of barrel aged stuff, and that is just one day when I went there. I was there with a friend, and I was like, I'm just gonna try all their barrel aged stuff. So I got tasters of 4 barrel aged things. It was hard to drink. Like I tried it, I'm like, "Oof." I got through one. I'm like, I don't know if I can even taste these other three because it's difficult. Barrel aged stuff, I don't like. You can drink one at most. Like there's just it's too much for you after that.
What I always said about barrel aged stuff when we were first trying it was like, if I'm just gonna drink a beer that tastes like bourbon,
It's gonna
I'd rather just drink bourbon and feel it faster. Like if that's my goal. If I'm drinking a 12% beer, like part of my goal is probably trying to be to feel it.
yeah. I mean, I also like whiskey. You know, I drink whiskey neat all the time, but um,
I'm a bourbon guy.
I mean, bourbon is whiskey, but yeah.
No, no, I know.
Okay.
I'm adding to the conversation here. I'm a
Yeah.
burnt oak whiskey guy.
Burnt oak, yeah. I mean, I like bourbons, right? I mean, I'm from bourbon country, as they say, but
Wait, you are? Where are you from again?
okay. That'd be Kentucky, sir. Um, so in chat we have Scotch is better than bourbon, which I tend to drink more Scotch than bourbon actually, but I don't drink just your normal Scotch. I normally drink Isla Scotch when I drink it.
No way Scotch is better than bourbon. Scotch tastes like a campfire in a bad
Well,
way.
no, that's Isla Scotch. There's Scotch like Monkey Shoulder. I know we're getting way off topic on a beer show here, but like Monkey Shoulder, I think is a very good, like $35 Scotch. You know, it's not smoky at all. There's no campfire aspect to it. No melted band aids, as some people like to say.
Ugh.
That's how they say some of it tastes. But I mean, there are a lot of scotches that aren't Isla scotches. So
Bourbon, though, to me, I mean, obviously it smells better than it tastes because all hard alcohol tastes essentially like alcohol. There are nuances, but like you're still gonna taste a lot of alcohol. But
mhm.
like bourbon, I like because it smells like butterscotch. Like it like smells so good otherwise, and not just like fire
A
and
lot of
burnt.
bourbons are sweet. You know, you get a very sweet feel from them.
Totally agree.
Melted, yeah. Like, look, some people I've heard say that like Lafroig 10, for example, which is an Isla Scotch, you know, tastes like band aids, like burning band aids, campfire, bacon. I've heard all of that kind of stuff. So it could be good, it could be bad, depending on if they like it or not. I mean, I'm a fan of that kind of stuff, but which I kind of like it in whiskeys, but I also like it in beer. So I don't know if you ever had a Rausch beer, but I think Rausch
Oh
beers are
yeah.
very good.
I do like Rausch beer. I like it in beer. I don't know what it is with the. Maybe it's just the mix of that like fiery taste plus it being so strong versus a
Mhm.
beer. Rausch beers are great. They taste like bacon. That's what I always like think
Yeah,
they taste most like.
yeah. I've had a few Rausch beers. Let me actually. I'm gonna look real quick while we're on the topic of how many Rausch beers I've actually had. Because it's not. I've had 5 Rausch beers.
That's
Eh.
that's actually a lot because you don't find them that
Yeah, you
much.
don't find them that much, which I think they're
Uh,
amazing. I wish more places would have them, but you know, it's a German style, obviously,
yes,
and
certainly.
apparently it's not loading. But I think a lot of people in the U.S. would like it because it's like bacon, you know, so you get that kind of campfirey, bacony. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, it just feels like it's fulfilling. You know, you're drinking, you're like, man, this is a good beer.
Absolutely. I had a Rausch beer at a brewery in Chicago because when I lived in Chicago, I gave food tours. And then
Right.
about a year into that, we started to research a beer tour. And it was really fun because on the company's dime, we got to go on another company's beer tour while we were researching ours. And they had one stop where they paired beer with bacon. Like it was a bacon themed restaurant. And
Mm-hmm.
we like paired it with it. But then later on our tour, we stopped at this one brewery in Chicago called Dovetail that is like super German. They only make German styles, and they made a killer Rausch beer that we would pair for the guests with like this dry aged smoked meat, and it was super super good.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that being good. I could also see, very heavy, bitter kind of IPAs being good with bacon because bacon's kind of fatty, hearty, in your face kind of
Totally.
meat.
We
So
we didn't we didn't pair the Rausch beer with the bacon, and on the
okay,
tour that I went on, they didn't pair Rausch beer with bacon either. We just had a beer that was paired with bacon, and then later we had
right.
Rausch beer. So, yeah, no, it's fun. I
So
can't believe this.
I couldn't find. Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to drink. I think this is the first time on the show I'm actually going to finish the beer during the segment that we're doing it. It's because it's so simple and easy. It's highly recommended. I think.
You should I think you should make a location on Untapped of Don't Worry Beer Happy because I think anyone can just make a location
Can I?
because I'd love to check it in, but like make it like I'm checking it in for the time that I'm having it on the show.
Right.
And then people could go to the Don't Worry Beer Happy and see what beers they have.
Um, I will look into that.
Yeah, we don't have to do it for right this second, but
But I am going to rate it on Untapped right now.
great. What are you gonna give it?
Uh, I think it is light, refreshing. It's really easy to drink. It's smooth. You're getting props from Chad here for the idea. I mean, I like the idea too. I think it'd be good, especially if people want to. Maybe in the future, I'll publish the beers that we're gonna have so people can play along if they'd like. Um, I'm gonna give this. What do you think I'm gonna give it?
Um, well, it's interesting because I think it's actually grown on you since your first sip. Because at the beginning, the first thing you said was like, it's not a like knock you on your ass, this is so amazing like thing. But the fact that it is so drinkable and just enjoyable, I think is a positive. And I think that you've grown to appreciate that as you've been drinking it more and more. So I'm gonna say you're gonna give it a 4-1.
So my thought process, and I did rate it already. So if you look at Untapped, you can see it. But
You
um,
rated it already.
yeah, so my thought process is this: it is very drinkable. It's very clean and easy. I feel like to be called a hazy, it's not so hazy. It's a little bit hazy. I feel personally like it fits more under the IPA umbrella, but that's just my opinion here. I gave it a 3.6. I mean,
Three six.
I think it's good. I would get it again. I really like it, but it's not something where I'm like, this is one of the best hazies I've ever had. It's not super fruity, which I'm a big fan of the super fruity stuff. I want it to be like fruit in your face.
No, me too. I'm totally with you on that.
So,
Interesting.
so yeah,
So
I mean,
you give it a 3.6 when your average is 3.61, so it's technically below average.
well, it's below average of the things I drink. It's not a below average beer, I don't think.
I see. Okay, that's a fair distinction. That's a fair distinction.
And I try to be
Cool.
fair to how much I like it and also how real it is, like how good it is for the style that it's in. I try to balance both of those on my ratings, but it's a tough balance sometimes.
For sure, for sure. No, I get that. Yeah, wow. I did not think I would basically finish the beer before we even open the second one because the second one is heftier.
It is
For sure.
heftier. I'm going to
Yeah.
go ahead and change the scene here. So this next one is by Sierra Nevada, like I said. Fantastic Haze. Very similar can. I don't know if we showed them side by side, but very similar can.
But different breweries.
Different breweries. Um, this one, similar color on the SRM. I mean, I couldn't find the exact color. I don't have an SRM
I recall it
scale.
being a little darker.
I mean, well, basically, I say 3 to 7, right? So it's like pale to, you know, a little bit less pale.
I could be wrong
Um,
also.
so I'm gonna pour it here. I mean, yeah, I mean, I can show the camera too, but I feel like we don't have to do it every time.
I'm using my glass from Brewery Ommegang. However, I haven't actually been there. I just won this at beer school when we graduated.
So
Um,
you have a
but it's
humongous
cool.
head. I have not that much head. I would say yours is way too much head for any style,
Oh yeah,
basically.
I it's clearly screw. I haven't even finished the beer yet. I clearly screwed up. I'm just waiting for it
Um,
to go.
yeah, so mine is in a New Holland brewery glass. I would have used a, Sierra Nevada glass, but in moving, it got shattered, and I tweeted it at Sierra Nevada, and they didn't respond. So, I mean, I feel like had I shattered this one, they would have responded.
No question.
I was like, I'm trying to support you here. They didn't care. So, if you ever get a Sierra Nevada glass and it gets shattered somehow, don't think that they'll talk to you or even help you replace it. So,
Yeah.
about your luck. This one, yeah, I mean, this one is a little bit darker. I mean, I think it's less clear for sure. And it does
Well,
look to
this
me
one
like there's stuff suspended in the beer.
exactly. I was gonna say this one you can actually see particulate matter in there for sure.
Let me see
Like you
if the.
can definitely see it in there.
I don't know if the camera can see it,
I
but.
know. I don't know either. But like
But
this one definitely is
believe
darker than
me,
the
yeah, but believe me, it is there. One thing that I wanted to mention is whenever you're trying to brew a beer, generally, you don't want the haze like we said. And one thing that I thought was interesting is that they'll use silica gel to remove it.
really?
That's one, yeah, that's one option. So they'll use the silica gel, which binds to proteins, and then they'll filter it out so the proteins in the silica get caught, and the rest of the beer comes out. That's one way that they do it. I think that's the most common method. Um, there are other methods that they use, and I know we were talking pre-show about this one, but and I'm going to read this because it's a scientific name, so and I'm no chemist, but the other method they use is something called PVPP, which is polyvinyl rolidone. The reason that's not used a lot though actually is because it's expensive. So, but that it works in a little different way, I think, also. And this might be a topic if we do have a chemical master ever come on here, but yeah, it gets rid of the polyphenols that are in the beer, and then those are filtered out. And this, I think, is what you'd have to do for the hazies, because the way to get this stuff out of the hazy IPAs, because of how it's made, would be to use that in general. And since it doesn't affect the flavor, they're like, it doesn't even matter anyway. But if you're looking at like a pilsner or something and it has haze, like that's not gonna fly. Like it doesn't fit the style. It's not wanted, and it's a defect in a pilsner kind of beer or other beer that's supposed to be clear.
Totally. This one, so we have a question from chat that I also was kind of curious about. So this beer I'm excited about having on the show just because like one, it's a double New England IPA technically, but also it's an Imperial IPA. And I feel like that's a pretty rare combo. Like I haven't seen that much at least. Like a
Like,
hazy Imperial or a hazy double.
mm,
Um and I'm also curious what Imperial technically means cuz I know it means high ABV. That's like to me in my brain I'm like, "Oh, it's an Imperial. That means it must be like 8% or above." But
I I want to say that the Imperial has something to do with like the origins of stouts. I want to say it's Russian in origin or something like that. Well, like
sure.
the czars and whatever, when they had their beers, I think they wanted them to be stronger for whatever reason. I'm not 100% sure, so I'd have to do research on it. But I believe that that's where the Imperial comes from, and then it's just applied, like it's just used as a stronger word now. It's like now that it's been in practice for something else, it's like, okay, Imperial means that it's stronger ABV because it's
Sure.
higher alcohol. And so I think that's why it's in like Imperial IPA. I actually like double IPA and triple IPA better because, you know, it seems more logical to me. I don't really like the Imperial name, but
Totally, but isn't there sometimes a distinction? Like a double IPA doesn't necessarily equal an Imperial IPA. To me, Imperial always tastes more like roasty, or it's more kind of almost like a red, or like it's there's some quality to it that's also different than just like a pure double IPA.
so in the style, like when I pull up the style exactly, it's Imperial or double, right? So
Really?
So yeah, so if you go to the Brewers Association, which I have it up right now, American Style Imperial or Double IPA, it's technically classified as the same thing. I think it's just whatever you want to market it as.
I had no idea. I really thought that it was something that it didn't just mean Deepa, that it because they all like seem richer to me. It like they have this richer like which this does too on the nose. Like this to me almost smells like a barley wine. It's got that like
Mm,
it's got booziness, but I don't know how to describe it. It's got like this richer, like fuller quality than as opposed to like a bitter nose to me. It doesn't smell like hops to me.
well, I think because this is a hazy, right? Because this isn't just a Imperial IPA; it's an Imperial
Right,
Hazy
right. Yeah.
IPA. So I think that kind of makes the nose different than what you would normally expect from like an Imperial or Double IPA. Like when I smell this, do I think it smells like it has 9% alcohol? No. Do I think it smells like there's 40 IBUs? No. But it does smell like it is a little more bitter probably than the Lagunitas beer. It does smell like there's more there. And I mean, it is going to be probably like a bigger body when you drink it. You know, there's more consuming malts, there's more uh, alcohol. I mean, well, to get more alcohol, you needed to put more grain in there in the boil to begin with to get the sugars out.
Sure.
So, I mean, that's why it's going to smell kind of fuller. But barley wine, I don't know. Like barley wine to me is almost like it's even more intense. Like this doesn't smell as intense to me as a barley wine.
No. I agree. It's not as intense, but it almost smells like like brown sugar or like it just smells like there's something else there besides just being like a double hazy IPA. It's like there's some richness or fullness or something else in there.
Yeah. The only thing is, it doesn't like a barley wine. When I think of a barley wine, I'm thinking of something that's gonna smell like it has a lot of malt. It's gonna be very, sometimes almost caramely and sweet.
I think that this smells caramely. A little bit.
Um,
I think that's a good way to describe it.
yeah, I mean, you can kind of get that. It's kind of a light caramel, like even I don't know, like toffee-ish.
Yeah, toffee, exactly. Like there's some
Um,
maybe it is just sugar, but yeah, something like that.
but yeah, I mean,
I'm
I,
sorry. I got
I, I can I can get that from the aroma too. But yeah, I feel like it's a little bit different because it is kind of balanced by the hops. And, and I tasted it, so if you want to taste yours, but
Oh, you tasted it
yeah.
without me?
Um,
Man.
but when I taste it, it does sort of have a sweeter taste to me than the Hazy Wonder, but it doesn't actually taste too fruity to me, honestly.
I'd contend that the fruitiness is it tastes more like a fig or a date kind of fruit, not like a citrus or a berry or something.
Hmm.
But I think there is a sweetness, a fruity sweetness that's more in that realm of fruit.
Yeah, because it almost feels darker. Like
Right.
when I think
Right.
of like a very light sweetness, I think of like an apple or even a citrusy fruit like an orange or maybe even like a pear for some of your weirder fruits that you might kind of taste in here.
I think
Um,
compared to the Hazy Wonder, this is definitely much more in your face. I think there's much more like of a full mouth feel and flavor.
mhm.
And to me, this does not taste any stronger in alcohol than the last one did.
It doesn't taste like it's very alcoholic, I don't think, but I do think that I can tell a difference between this one. Like if you gave me both of these, I would just feel because of the lightness, the other one's lighter and it has less alcohol.
For sure. That's a fair point. But maybe the funny thing I guess is that the other one, which is 6%, tasted like it was 4.5%, and this one, which is 9%, tastes like it's 6%.
Right.
Like,
I mean, the other one is it's very dangerous because it's not a session IPA where you might have an even lower ABV, but just you keep the flavor. It's still 6%. And this one, I mean, this is very sessionable, crushable, even still. I mean, those are two of the terms that people might describe it as. And it's 9%. Like this is very easy to drink. Like there's no, like if you have like a shot of whiskey or something, right? you might get a little like, yeah, you
Yeah,
kind of
there's
feel
no
like that.
pucker. There's no
Yeah,
pucker to it.
yeah, it doesn't feel like it's harsh or anything like that.
It's a great, when I'm buying beer at the grocery store, I'm like, it fits my criteria a lot because it's like a high ABV hazy that is not that expensive for a 6 pack.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't tend to buy too many hazies at the store. I feel like, I mean, for the show, obviously, I buy a lot of different styles now. And one of my favorite things is to just try unique beer, new beer that I haven't had before. But I think if I'm gonna be bringing something home, I do like stuff that's either like my favorite beer ever probably is Gunner's Daughter, or
Oh,
so,
you do love Gunner's Daughter.
which is chocolate peanut butter stout from Mass Landing, and it's near Portland, Maine. It's just phenomenal. I don't know. Some people don't like it as much. I like every version I've ever had of it, and I've had the normal Gunner's Daughter, an Imperial Gunner's Daughter, a marshmallow, a vanilla and chocolate, a coffee, a nitro. Like I've had all these styles of it. They're all 5. You go on my Untapped, they all got a 5. I love Gunner's Daughter. So like stuff like that. I mean, very fruity, very citrusy, kind of juicy IPAs would be another one, but I don't find those as much, especially here. I think in Maine I found a lot more of them, obviously, because it's in New England. Well, which reminds me, the origin of the hazy New England IPA, it's said to have come from Vermont, actually.
Really?
Yeah, so a
Why?
place. Well, it was a place. I think it was like the Alchemist or something like that. Um, was the brewery's name, or maybe that was the bar's name that they collaborated with a brewery. I don't know. It's kind of disputed, I think, and a lot of people do their own thing now, but I think that was the first kind of New England IPA, and that's why it started out with that name before the name change. Um,
Hmm.
I've never been there. I mean, I've been to Vermont once, but
I've never been to Vermont.
I went to the Ben and Jerry's
Well, I feel like that's the
thing.
only thing to go see in Vermont. Maybe like a maple syrup tree in the Ben and Jerry's
Oh yeah, but
factory.
but living in Maine, I had people who made maple syrup down the street. Like,
Right, so you don't even need to go there for maple syrup. You just
right?
go there for Ben and Jerry's, which is yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean it's overrated Ben and Jerry's, I think, in general, but it was cool to go to the location zero of Ben and Jerry's. So anytime you see it in the store, you know it's from Vermont if you didn't know.
Oh yeah, I think it's even on the pints. It says like Vermont owned or something.
Mhm.
Vermont. They love Vermont. I'm feeling this beer already. Maybe I'm feeling the first one. I really couldn't tell you. I got a splash of. See, I've got a splash of the first one left.
Mhm.
These are significantly different colors.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying they're the same color, but they're in the same family of colors. Like they're all like straw to
Sure.
like a golden kind of color almost.
Yeah, this one's like bumping up to yeah, golden amber kind of
Well, which is
shade.
why on the SRM when I put these on the slide on stream, it's saying that this style is between these numbers
Oh,
in general.
totally. No,
But
sorry, I wasn't even
especially
trying to like.
right,
I wasn't.
especially since I haven't had them, I was like, well, I don't want to open one up and check the SRM or even like eyeball it because I want the first time I have it to be right now. So
No, sorry, I wasn't trying to like contradict. I was just trying to
no,
show
I know, I know.
people at home that maybe it was that they're definitely like they're certainly distinct beers.
Right, and I think in general, I would expect an imperial or double IPA to be darker for whatever reason. Probably because there's more malt in it. There's just more stuff in general in it, so it's probably gonna get a little bit darker color.
Sure.
Now, I am curious of what is actually suspended here because there is stuff suspended in the beer.
And if you look closely, which I am right now, most of them are just like kind of, translucent, just like pieces. But there are a few like chunks that are more opaque and like are actually pieces of things.
I'm trying to see if like I can get it on camera at all, and I don't know. It's very hard, but
There's no description on the can either, but on Untapped, they say
do
that they
this.
loaded their kettles with 5 hop varieties and malt, oats, and wheat. So maybe it's one of those things.
But
I don't know.
I think it's cool that this one actually does have the haze that we're talking about. You know, it's not just like the other one, kind of a little bit not see through, sort of see through. This one is actually there is stuff in here that you
No
can
question.
see. Like if you look at it and you don't know what style it is, you might actually think like when I saw you pour it, for example, I was like, man, that glass isn't even close to beer clean. There's bubbles everywhere. But it wasn't the bubbles, it was the
Yeah,
stuff inside.
definitely. No, this one is unquestionably hazy. It's not the haziest thing I've ever had, but it's like definitely in that style.
Right. So when you compare this one to the first one, what would you rather drink?
I think it really depends on what my like plan is. I mean, like you said, the first one is highly sessionable in terms of like its the taste and how easy it goes down, which is, maybe dangerous because it's like if I'm, sitting watching sports or like hanging out with people, I'd probably want Hazy Wonder just because I could have like 3 or 4,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean I'd be on my ass probably after 4 after a short time. But yeah. Um but if I'm having like a night at home, 2 fantastic hazes, I will be gone. I'm almost already gone. So
I was thinking this one would be kind of like good with a really creamy pasta dish. Like when I think of this, I'm like, man, if you give me like a super creamy, very hearty pasta, you know, maybe you add in some like chicken or bacon or something, and you have this with it, like that is gonna cut through that creaminess, and it's gonna be really, really good. I mean, that's what I think about with this. I'd rather have this one with food, but the Wonder, I think that one, yeah, is definitely just like a I want to drink a beer. I'm just gonna sit and drink this kind of thing.
I completely agree. I think Fantastic Haze would pair super well with, like, you could pair it well. It'd be a perfect beer to drink like throughout a dinner because it's strong enough that you'd still get a little bit of that feeling, but not, it's not like you'd be drinking a whole bottle of wine at the same time or anything like that.
Right.
It's not a Waldo's. Um, but then Hazy Wonder, you could just fucking crush whenever. Like you could just go for it. Um,
Yeah,
anytime.
yeah, like it's not a beer that you're kind of I don't know locked away from drinking because it's so strong or so like heavy on your palate. There are some beers like barrel aged, for example. Like there is no circumstance where I'm just gonna be like, oh man, I just want a refreshing barrel aged beer because that doesn't exist to me. Like there's no
Yeah,
refreshing barrel aged beer.
you're like,
It,
ooh, it's a hot day. I want a dragon's milk so I can sweat lactose out of my veins. Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's just like this one is on the line. I feel like it is very much something that I could see being a beer that I would drink just because I want one beer and that's all I would really want of this. I don't think I could drink two of these in a row.
Really?
I mean, like it's good. I mean, I'm not saying like I would feel drunk, but I'm just saying like my tongue is gonna be like, can we do something else? It kind of gets tiresome.
I feel like if I was still in college, if we were still in college, and we were going to a party, I feel like I would pregame with 2 fantastic hazes, and then the rest of the night just drink hazy wonders.
I mean, yeah,
I
well, but that's you're going for something different there too. It's like,
True, true. That would be if I was trying to, turn up and stay turned up,
but at that
as they
point,
say.
you know, I could say, well, I would just rather get a double shot of 120 proof Knob Creek, call it a day. I mean,
I mean, yes, of course, you can always do that, but I mean, like, if I was, yeah, I feel like a good night would be like 1 fantastic haze and 2 hazy wonders afterward. Like that's a like if you're, at a dinner party or something like that. Like I feel like that's a good combo.
But yeah, if you're at a dinner party, definitely I think starting with this and then having the Hazy Wonder after just as a chill drink thing.
Totally.
It's definitely valid. But yeah, I mean, I don't think just casually I want two fantastic hazes in a row.
That's fair. That's fair. I know. I don't think I've ever had two in a row. This is my. I'm pretty much out of my 6-pack, and I've definitely only had one at a time.
Has anyone
Yeah.
else in our Untapped group rated this or?
I mean, I believe that Anna will probably rate it very soon because she is having it right now as well.
Okay,
It's fun to drink along with the show when you know what beers there are. Another
that's
idea
true.
for you, Nick. Another idea for you. I know maybe it would ruin the surprise though. Is like a few days before each episode, publicizing which beers are going to be on, so then people could drink along,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
could
I
be
mean,
really
that's
fun.
something I do want to do. I think that would be good. Just the logistics of it sometimes, especially here at the beginning, have been difficult to say the least.
Totally, totally, totally. I know we wanted to do Hazy Memory too, but I couldn't get it. So
Yeah.
totally, yeah.
So it looks like you're
We'll
the.
we'll have to do we'll have to do. I mean, this obviously makes the most sense. In April, we should do Log Show when Waldo's is out, and we can get a Super Cluster and a bunch of other ones too,
Mhm.
and just make it Log Show. I did think too late that today is the third episode and it's the third day of January, and we probably should have had 3 beers, but it's okay.
Well, I feel like for the show, two is we get on tangents a lot. We talk about everything under the sun. I feel like, and
True. That's
uh,
why on log episode, because there's no way we're gonna stick to 2, we should just have a timer set for like every 15 minutes we open a new beer, and
mhm.
we can have a smorgasbord.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of episode ideas I have where there are more than just two beers, including um, like trying off flavors. I really want to try off flavors. I know it's kind of like a off-putting idea for some people, but I just think it's interesting and kind of helpful if you ever buy beer because you'll know like, oh well, this has been sitting on the shelf for too long. I don't even have to know the date because it tastes like a little cardboardy or whatever.
I think that's a cool idea, especially if like over the summer there's an episode where like you keep one bottle of the same beer in the fridge and you put another one outside in the sun for like 24 hours and then taste them side by side. I'm sure you have other ideas
Ooh.
for how to make off flavors in other ways, but yeah.
Well, I mean, there are kits to actually spike the beer, and I would, so maybe you take a Bud Light, you have your control, you have 6 other 3-ounce samples, you spike each of those samples, and then you taste this one, and then you taste your control, or vice versa, or whatever, and then you can see like, oh well, this one it tastes very much like sulfur, or this one tastes very much like like a buttery kind of popcorn kind of deal, or it's like green apples, or
Popcorn though. So am I gonna dislike that one? I might like that one more.
well, depending on the style though, it could like some styles actually allow for it, but other styles it's a definite no-no.
Cool.
So I see your rating on this, and I'm trying to think of what I'm going to rate it. Now, do you think my rating on this one will be higher or lower than the Wonder?
I think it'll be higher than the Wonder, and I think it'll be lower than what I rated it, just because of our things. I also like. I think I gave it a higher rating because I don't know. I think it's cool. Like I'm not sure I've had a double hazy of this like that tastes like this before. You know what I mean? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's not overly juicy in your face, but like it is objectively hazy. There's stuff floating in it,
Right.
and like I do think it's quite good. And for me, it's not so overwhelmingly strong or potent that I feel like I could only drink one. You know, so I think it's a cool beer, but
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I'm definitely rating it higher than the Wonder. Um, uh, what should I check this in at?
I'm
I
gonna
mean,
check it in again. I checked in the other one again too. Just with the comment, "Don't worry, beer happy," with each one, so I can remember that that's what I had on the show.
right, yeah. Um, like I like the hoppiness of it. I think the haziness of it's cool. It's not super citrusy to me, but it is like you do have some sort of juiciness underneath. I don't know what the actual fruit is.
There is a sweetness though.
Yeah,
Either
there is
way,
a
even if it's not
sweetness.
a fruitiness, there's certainly like a sweetness there.
There is a sweetness there, although it's not like a I don't know. It's not like a chocolatey sweetness that you might get in a stout or something. You know, it's a different
Definitely
kind
not.
of. It's definitely a fruity sweetness. I feel like it's something stemming from that. Uh, I can't decide what number I should do. I'm thinking I'm gonna give it. It's hard. All right, checked it in. I gave it a 3.9.
3.9. Oh, we didn't even break 4. Devastating.
I that was what I was trying to decide between is do I want to give it a 4 or 3.9? I think I didn't hit 4 because it's not one of those beers that is if it had more fruit forward characteristics then I would have rated it higher. I think that because it's lacking, I think it's good for the style. I think it's a definite yes to try. It is an imperial hazy. It represents the style very well, but my actual liking of it is a little bit less than how good it is for the style, and I think the balance on that, 3.9's
All
fair.
right.
So
That's yeah, you know what? Your rating's your rating. That's totally fine. You're allowed to say that. Disappointed that you had two uniques and neither of them cracked 4.
I mean, well, this one was close. I think I don't know. I mean, maybe when I actually, what did I rate the other one? The memory.
3.6.
No, the hazy memory that we didn't have today.
Oh, Hazy Ma'am.
Yeah, because I've had that one, but I don't know. I gave that one a 4.5. I mean,
I know Hazy Mem in terms of rating it in the context of other hazies is definitely more of like a I mean, I think that my review of it was like this is the hazy IPA I've been waiting for from Log.
I said it's great, juicy, and amazing. I actually have a picture of it here. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's
I'll have to come back and we'll do Hazy Mem because I
yeah.
can get it. It is here. It's just not.
Well, maybe for Lagunitas week, we'll include it.
Why not? I mean, we'll have to do Log IPA obviously.
Yeah, well, that's like the classic IPA. I feel like everywhere has log IPA, and if you haven't had log IPA, I mean, it is the IPA. It's not
Yeah.
the most out there. It's not the most of anything. It is just like when you think of IPA, that's what I think of log IPA. It should be
Yeah.
everywhere. I mean, it
We'll
generally
have to
is.
do we'll have to do Log IPA, little something something.
If
I
we're doing
think
an
we should
April
definitely
Waldo's,
well, yeah, we'll obviously do Waldo's. I think we should do Supercluster for sure because we have a fun story about Supercluster, which we'll again save for the log episode. But
yeah, I mean, I'm up for as many log beers. I mean, log they just have. I don't think they have any bad beer. I think all their beer is good. They have just a thing about them
completely agree.
that they
Completely
just
agree.
produce good beers no matter if it's a mistake or not. They're like, well, we made a mistake and here's what came out, but it turned out to be good, so we're gonna sell it.
They don't make bad some of their beers are better than others of their beers, but none of them are bad. Even even their do you remember when we tried or I'm sure you had a sip. One time at Cicero's, I ordered when we went to happy hour before beer school, I ordered a log beer that I'd never had before. And I tasted it and I was like, whoa, this is so different and so good. And like, whoa, this is like really cool, blah, blah, blah. And then I kept tasting it and I was like, it almost tastes barrel aged, but it's so much better than any barrel aged beer I've had.
And that
And
was
it
the
was
barley wine,
there.
right? Or
Sorry.
was that the barley wine?
No, no, no. I love gnarly wine. But no, it was their Willetized Stout, aged in Willet bourbon barrels. It was their like barrel aged beer, and it was incredible.
I don't know that I had that.
Oh, it's so good.
Because if I did, I would have checked it in probably. I would have checked
It
it in as
was
a taster.
it was incredible, and I was like, how is this even a log beer? Like, how is this a barrel aged beer, which aren't usually my favorite? They just do everything right. They're the best. We could
I'm
talk about them all night.
yeah,
We really could.
I like they're the standard. Whenever I go to breweries now, since we visited their location in Petaluma, I ask them. I'm like, "What is your water to beer ratio?" Right? Because theirs is what like 2.5 or something,
Oh,
2.1.
it's like the lowest of any macro brewery because they put
Whereas
an emphasis on sustainability.
right, and you know, even whenever I went to, I want to say it's like the third largest in Maine, Baxter Brewing. When I went there and asked them, I think their answer was like 4.5 or something. You know, so it's like they do it, they do it better.
They're just the best. I just love them, and like no one's noticed any difference since they were acquired by Heineken. Like no one's noticed any difference because Heineken was just like, we're just gonna give you international distribution, but you keep doing your thing because we like what you're doing, and they really have, hands
Yeah, I
off.
mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Totally agree. And life is short, don't sip. That's classic log catchphrase.
Well, I mean, based on the fact that you know we drank the entire thing, I mean, we didn't sip, so
No, totally agree. So you're telling me you're not feeling these at all?
I mean, I don't feel buzzed really. No, I mean, I can tell like I drank something, and then I've had like half of this, but
Right, right. Maybe if you finished that in the next like 10 minutes, you'd maybe feel a little bit because it's, it's a hefty beer.
yeah, I mean, but the fact is, we've been like doing the show for an hour and a half or so,
That's true. That's true. That's true.
and I am, you know, larger person than you, so
No, I know. And also you have a higher tolerance for a number of reasons. But yeah, I mean like yeah, yeah. I also don't drink nearly as much as I used to, so I
I don't
can't
either. I
really
mean,
relate.
it's it's few and far between where you know I have more than just one beer at a time.
Which is which is objectively healthy. So that's not a bad thing that like both of us are like, "Oh, we don't drink as much as we used to." Great. That's fine.
I mean, I will say the Lagunitas one is the one that I would drink more than one. Like I said, I mean this one, this is definitely harder to finish. Like I feel like I've been on this one for a while, whereas this one I just looked down and I had nothing. I don't
Oh, I
know.
know. The log one is like I think the six pack was $10 or so for me. I don't know how much it was for you. Probably maybe a little less. LA's expensive.
I don't know. It's probably I would expect it to be a little bit more. I want to say it was like 13.
Oh whoa. I feel like it was 10 or 10.99 for the Hazy Wonder, and I feel like without even trying, you could easily drink 3 or 4 in a night and not even notice. And then suddenly you notice because it's 6% times
Right.
four. You know.
Yeah, you know, I'm curious now. I'm thinking about it if they did any haze removal. You know how we were talking about how there are different processes. If they actually did that for the Wonder, I don't
Interesting.
know why they would, but
I don't either because it says unfiltered, so it seemed to me it seems like it's like an easy IPA that they just chose to not filter, and that makes it
hmm.
hazy technically because it's not filtered.
Well, even beers that aren't hazy beers, like I said, if you use your haze meter based on the way the light is going through it, it can register as hazy. So maybe that's what they're going with. I don't know.
Sure, sure, that makes sense. Yeah, I love unfiltered beers personally. It's kind of like I love unpasteurized cheeses, which are technically illegal in the United States. Um, but like
Did
in
you?
Europe,
Yeah, I was about to say, did you have a lot of them in Copenhagen?
I tried. I really love like pungent cheeses. So like I feel like whatever. I'm not who cares if they're unpasteurized? I'm not gonna like whatever, you know. Okay, the milk used to make the cheese is not pasteurized, whatever. To me that's just more flavor. It's like
Well, I
more
mean, I'm
like
pretty sure
flavor.
that yeah, the hazy distinction means it's not it's unfiltered and unpasteurized, both.
But like,
I'm pretty sure.
beer has alcohol, so it kind of is self-cleaning. They don't need to be pasteurized.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, that like I said, but I think in a previous episode, that's one reason why some of the people, not in the earliest days of beer, where they just found some fermentation of you know whatever, but you know in the later days, but still early on before we had all the technology and knew all the ins and outs, they would use it for water, basically. Be
Of course.
2%, 1.5%, whatever it was. Is just something to make sure there were no microbes that were going to kill you, right?
What we call Utah beer.
Tall beer.
Well, in Utah, they have all these state-run liquor stores, but the only it's only allowed to be sold in a grocery store if it's under like I'm gonna get this wrong, but if it's crazy, if it's like under like 3.5% or something. So there's this special version of Coors Light that is like 3.2% or something, and
I
it's
actually,
so that they can sell it in the grocery store
I
in
actually didn't
Utah.
know that. That kind of goes to our discussion a couple shows ago on like what's an ale and what's a beer. In Texas, before 2012, 13, 11, whatever it was, whenever they were saying, "Oh well, this is a beer, this is an ale," whenever there's no distinction. The laws are funny about beer. Whether you can ship is another one that is very.
Yeah, I just want everyone watching to know that a couple years ago for Nikolai's birthday, I gave him credit to Tavour, which is like a beer delivery service of like super cool limited release rare beers. You can kind of like pick and choose your crate and then they ship it to you for free. And of course, he tells me after I get it for him that they won't ship to Tennessee because it's illegal to ship to
Well, they
Tennessee.
won't ship to
So
Tennessee. I couldn't get it to ship to my parents in Kentucky either. And I was like, "There's just I'm just gonna have to use it if I visit you." I don't know. Like, I
it's
still
so
have it.
frustrating.
Like, I still have it ready. I mean,
No, say yeah, like I hope so. I know. I'm just hoping that, you know, one day maybe.
I want to say it was in 2013 when the last state. I want to say it was Mississippi legalized home brewing. So I mean, it's very recent that a lot of these laws have been changed.
Wow. Well, it because Tavour could be a really cool resource for this show
Hmm.
in terms of like if you want to try a rarer beer that like your guest and you can both get shipped to you, from that. Like they have so many crazy things on there.
Or even in the future, like if I mean, not that there will be necessarily, but like I don't know, maybe if a brewery has a cool beer that we want to showcase, being in touch with them, even I mean, they wouldn't be able to ship it here.
Yeah, no, that is a really, really good point. Although
I
you could start small with Tennessee breweries and then they
mhm.
could ship it to a state like California. So you could just go pick it up or they could
True,
deliver
yeah,
it to you and then they could ship it out.
that's true. Yeah, I mean, hopefully it keeps advancing. It's kind of ridiculous to me that there's this whole system of well, it has to be brewed by these people, and then it's like the three layers of you have the brewer, then you have the distributor, then you have the like seller. And
Totally.
there are some places where you can't even sell beer from a brewery, right? Some places where you can sell it, some where you can't. Some you can only sell certain beers or whatever. It's just there's so much complication for literally no reason. I mean, there's probably some reason that they had in the past, but I don't think it really applies, and it's probably more for tax reasons and just getting money than anything.
Totally.
So,
No, I totally with you. Like it's doesn't really make sense. None of the alcohol laws make sense to me. I mean, I'm fortunate to be someone who's only ever lived in a state where like alcohol is easily available through grocery stores and stuff. But I obviously know and have been to states where it's like you can't get it
yeah,
unless you go
that
to a special store.
that's true. Like the state ABC or whatever. I don't know. Any last things to say on this beer?
Um, I'm just gonna say thank you so much for having me and like I I think these were two really fun hazies. Obviously it's like any new beer is a fun thing. I'm like I said at the beginning, I'm just excited that these were two beers that you'd never had before
Mhm.
because like them or not, like even if you hated both of them, it's like that's two new beers that you hadn't tried before and I think that's a cool fun thing. Um obviously, for us to get our absolute favorite hazies in the world is unrealistic because like they might be from microbreweries that have like the beer has a total of like 81 check-ins on
Right.
tapped and stuff like that. So I think we did a good job of getting two beers that both of us could get so we could be trying the exact same thing at the same time. I think that's one of the coolest things about this show is that like
Mhm.
through space, you can still be having the same experience at the same time. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, I think they're two very different beers, and I enjoy both of them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I liked the idea of the hazy because it's not one that I drink all the time. So yeah, I was definitely happy with that. And I definitely appreciate you coming onto the show. I mean, it's always fun to talk and just go over stories and just chit chat for a little while about whatever. And with two good beers, makes it even better. So,
Yeah, who can
uh,
complain?
do you have any shout outs you want to do before you leave?
Shout out to Lagunitas, my favorite
Mhm.
brewery. Um, they are they are the first company that I ever realized that I would be brand loyal to for my life. And we can talk more about that on Log Day. I'm
I,
already
I
inserting
agree there,
myself
by
that
the
I'm
way.
gonna yeah, like I'm inserting myself that I'm gonna come back for Log Day. But if you have Log Day without me, I will kill you. But yeah, no, we'll I'm excited to do Log Day. Love Lagunitas. Shout out to I do technically have a podcast also that is on hiatus right now, but we have a whole season released. It's called A Very Special Episode. It's an improvised sitcom podcast. Um, we might have another season forthcoming. We're not actually sure yet, but it's at AVSE Improv on all socials. And you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that you might get your podcasts.
I put that in
Um,
chat here. I'll also put it in the
oh,
description
thank you.
of the video whenever this goes to YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I've listened to them. I mean, they're fun. I like them a lot. It's not going to be like just sit down and talk show. So, I mean, if you're expecting by podcasts, it's just, you sit down and people are just talking about stuff. It's a lot different experience.
Yes,
But
definitely
it's a good
different
one.
than that. Yeah.
So, well, I mean, with nothing else, I think that's all I have for the show. I mean, I hope you learned a little something. I mean, obviously on future episodes, maybe we can get a little bit more scientific with some things, but beer is chemistry, beer is art, beer is all kinds of stuff, and it's kind of
Here's
hard.
life.
Beer is life, the nectar of the gods, as some people
Sure.
say. Um, I mean, I might agree. It's pretty good stuff, but I don't know. There's so much to talk about. I mean, that's why I think this show is a good thing. We can just get into whatever. We have a general focus, and we just kind of go from there. So, if you have any questions that came from the episode, if you have anything that comes up after, do let me know. This will be on YouTube here this week at some point. Without further ado, if you want to say it with me here, as always, don't worry.
Don't worry. Beer happy.
Beer happy, everybody. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it, and have a good night.